Well, it appears that Nigel Farage, good old Nige, is once again shaking things up with Reform UK. This time, though, it might bite him in the bum a bit, and the reason for that is he's planning to ditch the £90 billion tax cut promise, which would have helped quite a lot of people out. But why is he doing it? Well, it's apparently to make the party look more responsible with money, in which case it makes me wonder, why did he even say it to begin with? And I, for one, hope that he's not going to U-turn on quite a lot of other things he's been promising. But anyway, in a few weeks, he's going to be giving a big speech about their economic plans. And their 2024 manifesto, or contract as they like to call it, was all about tax cuts, wasn't it? Like raising the income tax starting rate or threshold to £20,000, which personally I think would actually be a good thing, because we'd all have a little bit more money in our pockets to spend on things, and businesses will be helped out surely as a result of that. But anyway, that was not it. It was apparently saying it'd get rid of inheritance tax on estates under £2 million. But economists, including the Institute of Financial Studies, the IFS, weren't too thrilled. Now, the thing is with the IFS, from what I've seen so far, they do appear to be, shall we say, a very Ramona-centric organisation who just loves the establishment and things like that. So even if they did throw their toys out of the pram about this, it would surely be what they would have done anyway. But they apparently called it at the time problematic, and saying that the numbers didn't quite add up. And now it seems if Farage is going back on this promise, maybe, just maybe, he might agree with them. But just what did he say about it? Well, he said that they're going to present a solid, costed manifesto for the next election. And he promised, of course, that they would not borrow money like Labour and the Tories have done. Instead, they'll make savings first before cutting taxes. He also mentioned that they're sticking to their guns on ending net zero policies, cutting benefits for foreigners and stopping wasteful spending by the Bank of England. And they want to bring back big taxpayers, boost businesses, especially small ones, and produce apparently our own oil and gas, which would be a massive thing for us, wouldn't it? And would hopefully at least bring our electricity bills down a bit. But anyway, the 2024 plan also talked about cutting civil service spending, but Farage said they'll go even further with spending cuts and introduce an industrial policy and change how people think about work and success. Well, hopefully at least that'll get a few more people off the dole. But anyway, it is a bit at the minute unclear which spending promises they'll drop. But of course, with his speech, I'm sure he'll spill the beans on their economic plans. Reform, though, is of course doing pretty well in the polls with over 30% support. Remember, this was before this announcement, so at least hopefully they could still keep quite a bit of that. But either way, I'm sure they'll stay far ahead of the Conservatives and, of course, Labour, who, let's face it, I'm sure even the Greens will be ahead of Labour at this rate, eh? But Reform's popularity is mostly thanks, of course, to their tough stance on immigration, but critics say that they're not great with money. And Farage's support for things like lifting the two-child benefit cap and reversing cuts to the winter fuel payment has earned him the nickname Snake Oil Salesman. So hopefully, at the very least, if he does drop some of these tax promises, he could put an end to that. The problem is, though, it doesn't really do his credibility very good if he's saying one thing 1 minute and then do a Keir Starmer belly dancing U-turn and then cancelling it the next, does it? I'm sure Reform do have a plan on how they can do this, otherwise they wouldn't have said it. Well, hopefully that is, but even so, perhaps it might have done them good to start off this way without mentioning anything. But get this, the Conservatives even called Reform socialist at their party conference, pointing to their spending promises and support for nationalising industries. Other promises in the 2024 manifesto, or contract if you want to call it that, introduce scrapping VAT on energy bills and cutting corporation tax down from 25% to 20% within the first 100 days, which personally, even though it wouldn't be for us normal you and me taxpayers, that would have saved businesses a bit, and therefore hopefully more businesses would have then invested in our country as opposed to leaving our country, which is what Keir Starmer seems to be making them do at the moment with all his rises, eh? But Richard Tice, the deputy leader, is apparently seen as the potential chancellor if they win, and he wants the Bank of England to actually stop paying interest on reserves to commercial lenders and on the £600 billion worth of deposits from quantitative easing. Farage, of course, he said both the Labour and Conservatives have been unfair to work and people. He's certainly right there, isn't he? using them as cover for their economic blunders. And he promised a future reform government would focus on those who contribute to the economy. And apparently at the Digital Assets Summit in London, he mentioned that Gordon Brown sold off the gold reserves too cheaply and over-regulated, and he praised Thatcher's Big Bang reforms in the 1980s for making London a global financial hub, and said that they would need a Big Bang too, with digital assets at the centre. Anyway, what do you all think about this? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll be back very soon with some more videos, so make sure you click that subscribe button down there so you don't miss my next one.